The session one talked about the metric, right? And the metric is based on a definition from Kevin Kelly. And you can find that article if you go to your favorite AI or you go to a search term a search engine, right, which is kind of old school these days, and you look for Kevin Kelly, 1,000 True Fans. That's what this metric is based on. And that's not what the entire series is based on, but the metric is going to be. And we're going to use his definition and his understanding so that you can set a target number so that when you wake up in the morning or when you're trying to figure out if it's March and you're trying to figure out what you're trying to get to by the end of, let's say, September, you know where you are in the year. And so you want to have that number in front of you all of the time. It needs to guide what you say yes to. It needs to guide what you say no to. And everybody has what that number is. And sometimes when that number is vague, what happens is you say yes to things that maybe you don't necessarily mean to say yes to, but you say yes to them because you think you have time to do that, and you really don't. And so one of the things that we're going to get to, let's say not today, maybe in further down the line in terms of drawing this number, is there's a gentleman named Sean D'Souza who, at the end of every year, right, he takes off 2 months. But that's really because number one, he knows exactly what his target number is. And number two, everything he does, he's doing it so that he meets the target number for the year at month 10. And so he's basing all of his activity on a 10th month year. And so at the beginning of 10 months, he takes off for 2 months. That sounds like pie in the sky, but a lot of it really has to do with focus. And there are a number of things that I really have been wanting to teach for a long time. We're going to be talking about focusing. We talk about theory of constraints. You've heard me talk about that. But everything starts with this number. And that's really what we're trying to do in this series is starting with a number. You have to start with a target number even before you know who your target market is. You start with why am I online? Right? What am I trying to do? And I'm not talking about make the world a better place. I'm talking about what number am I trying to achieve when I sit down at my computer every day? What is the goal? Right? What is the absolute number that I want from this? I want to give back to me. So the metric that we talked about is based on Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans. The idea is that you create a baseline. The baseline is thinking about I want 1,000 people with who will spend $100 with me in a calendar year. That will then end up producing $100,000 per year. Now, again, there are all kinds of ways to adjust this, but that's the baseline. That is the metric. So we design our metric. Now, we're not designing our business, but we design the metric based on this baseline. And that's what I talked about in, I think it was video two. Um, it's a way of thinking about revenue. And that's really what we're doing. So um, uh, um, if you don't have now, some of you already have a metric. And I said this in the video. I said this in video two. And if you have a metric already, use it. Right. If you know what you're working toward every day, every week, every month, and every year, then you keep doing that because it's working. Now, I don't say that disingenuously, sound like, well, if you got something, I mean, seriously, very succinctly, if you already have a number that's in front of you and that number drives you, then please keep using it. Don't change from because I'm giving you this. But if you don't have a goal, you don't have a number you're working toward, and your activity is just kind of vague in terms of what you're trying to do, adopt what I'm saying here. Watch that video too, and just do what I'm saying. I'm telling you to do it because you need to have a reason other than again trying to make the world a better place and doing all this. You need to have a goal, a quantifiable, tangible goal, and this metric is a starting point. So again, if you don't have one, do what I'm telling you here. Do what I'm asking you to do until you have one. Now, when you have one, then use your own, right? But if you don't have one, use what I'm telling you here. Um, Now, what Kevin Kelly said, if you read the article, and hopefully you read the article already, it doesn't necessarily, um, he's not necessarily telling us anything as information marketers. If you if you have been doing our kind of business any length of time, you already know what he was talking about. What he was talking to artists about was they needed to have a direct relationship to their customer. So, in other words, that for an artist, it's not enough to have a record label, or for a book to have, be in Barnes and Noble, and to get all your books sold there, right? That's an indirect relationship that you want to have a direct relationship with the customer. Now, we know that as information marketers. In fact, one of the things that you want to offer as a service, you want to be a coach, right? One thing you can train authors and artists and just about anybody who's got some kind of, let's say, something they have to offer to the market, but let's say they do it through Amazon or they do it through a middleman, they do it through having a YouTube channel. What you can do to transform their life and their business is cut out the middleman and give them a direct relationship to their customer, typically via email. And I said this in video too. But again, this is something that our business knows that the rest of the world does not. So when you hear me talk about that in the video, I talk about the direct relationship, and I'm talking about it because Kevin Kelly talked about it. It's not because you don't know that. I know you know that. But most of the world does not. Now, right now, email is as close as you can get. That's typically going to be the most cost effective. I think you can get an Aweber account for $20. You can get response for 20 some odd dollars or something like that. And you can have a direct relationship with your customer as long as they're opening your email, right? So that's about as good as it's going to be and cost effective as it's going to be. Now, even though Aweber has gone up quite a bit, um, uh, that's about as good as you can get in terms of direct relationship. Now, I want to kind of go back to something I said in that video. And I think that in the age of AI, uh, uh, information marketers need to also do this. And I am working on it myself, is that I've seen Russell Brunson try to do it. I've seen people do it with moderate amounts of success. I've seen Omar Martin do it. Is you want to be able to get into the mailbox of people, that you got to somehow get into their home, for lack of a better word. Uh, However you do it, you get a journal in there, you get a a book in there, someplace where in their physical life they've got something from your brand, they've got something for your business. However you do that. Now we'll be talking about that in this series, but that's really close. So email is close, right? Because people, they've got their phone and they're kind of listening to it. Um, Podcasting is kind of close because you can be with them in their car. Podcasting is a little closer, uh, because you can join them on the treadmill, you can join them in the car. YouTube, sort of, right? But you're still kind of on YouTube with a lot of other people. And most people feel the need to watch you. And so they will dismiss a video where they cannot necessarily dismiss a podcast, right? So again, um, podcasting is good. Audio podcast, if you've got something where people want to listen to you and you're good with audio, you can get close in your customer relationship. So whatever it is, right? This metric is based on having a direct as possible relationship. And you build on those concentric circles of directness, right? Email, direct mail, podcast, then maybe video, right? You want to have your voice in direct relationship. And I said this on the video that, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, that look, you can have a YouTube channel, Facebook group, meetup, all these other things. They're still free, they're still a barrier between you and the customer. So any of these platforms change anything, then there's a disruption in your relationship. There's static. Recently, and I covered this in one AI video per day, 2 days ago, YouTube basically said on July 15th they're going to do something about not monetizing the channels that they feel like are low effort and mass produce AI content. Now I've seen everything across the spectrum of people who say, well, it doesn't mean you can't use AI video. I'm not, I wouldn't dispute that even if I thought that. Here's the point. YouTube is an indirect relationship. They can change the rule on you just like that. A Facebook group can change the rule on you just like that. I think, was it maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, where they were mass banning channels. And I don't know what it was based on. I think it was based on someone reporting the channels, and somebody had some nefarious plot that they were doing in all these Facebook groups. It wasn't necessarily Meta, but somebody did something, and the Meta algorithm just started wiping out groups. And I don't know if yours is one of them, or you may have been in one where that happened. But again, the relationship is indirect. So if your business, your revenue depends on an indirect relationship, it's not good enough, right? So you want to have, as close as you can, a direct relationship. So even though what Kevin Kelly said was talking to artists, internet marketers still have the same problem. You still, as an information marketer, want to get as direct with that customer as you can, direct with that 1,000 people as you can, who are going to be spending that $100 a year with you. And I said this, and I mean it. And as much as I value our affiliate relationships, right? I appreciate the people who mail on our behalf, right? I appreciate them. I probably do not thank them enough. It's probably not enough that they get an affiliate commission, but at some point I'm going to have to do a little more to thank them. Those relationships are indirect. And I can't be mad at an affiliate if they don't mail on the day that I launch. I can't be mad at them. They've got their own life, they've got their own business. And so if I can't be mad at them for not treating my business with the seriousness that I treat it with, then that's an indirect relationship. As good as it is, right? It's still one of the highest leverage activities in our business, which is an affiliate relationship. It's still indirect because an affiliate can decide they can't mail for me. I've decided that for people, right? I'd say, you know what? Okay, I'll mail for you on Monday. And then something happens on Monday, and I've got to do something with our own PLR business. And then on Tuesday, I get a little busy. And then I come in at the end of the launch, right? And sometimes I don't get around to recommending their product at all. And it's not because I dislike them or because they're not important. It's just things happen. So an affiliate, and so they can't depend on me fully, right? Because an affiliate relationship is indirect. You need to have a direct relationship with your customer that does not depend on anything else for that $100 per calendar year with the 1,000 people. Now, again, it could be gravy on top, right? It can be great on top. YouTube can be great on top. Facebook can be great on top. But for that $100, for that 1,000 people, you want to have that as a direct relationship as you can possibly get to those customers. And that's going to be a difference in our information marketing business, right? To the best of your ability, you want that relationship to be as direct as possible. Let me see what time it is here. It's about 7:23. So I'm not going to keep you but 30 minutes, but I'm just kind of recapping what I did in the series. And most of this you'll see, I think it's in video 2, where I talked about the metrics. This is an old article, so you know. So you're looking at this, you're thinking, oh, man, this sounds old. Um, it is old, but the idea is fresh, right? It's even more relevant now that we have AI. And so one of the things I said last night, and I'm going to kind of close out on this, is that when we finish the process, I'm going to suggest that you program either a GPT to help you to process your number on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or a monthly basis. Like you put in your sales and you say, okay, am I on track to be able to take off at the end of in October? Right. So if you want and so once you set the metric, once you know what the metric is, right, you start setting your goals based on what you want. And we're going to take our time and set this metric. And I do not want to start building the community, right, until you know what the metric is, right? Because there are any number of things you can do to get to the metric. So yeah. Any questions? And I think I said I wasn't going to take questions, but it's about 7:30, so I'm done a little early. So any questions? Any questions? I will take them here in Zoom. So the topic is it's the same as the YouTube channel, my YouTube series. And I've done 4 videos as of last night. Yeah, I'm suggesting that you create once I finish, that you create a bot that will tell you based on how you calculate your number, um, where you are during the course of a year. Where am I, you know, how am I doing? Um, here's my metric. Here's my metric is based on. What can I be doing? Right. I do suggest that you create, maybe I'll do a session that'll be like that, but I do suggest that you create a bot, right? Something in your chat GPT that'll say, like, if your number turns out to be, let's say your number turns out to be, I don't know, I'm just going to use a random number. Once you get through that, and your number is going to be like based on you want to finish in 10 months, you want to take the month of October off, right? So that means then that let's say your number is 897 per day, right? Let's say that's your number, 897 per day. And you start telling ChatGPT every day what your income is. Okay, where are we at? What do I have to do? What can I do? What can I speed up? Do I need to speed up? Right? Am I getting close? Am I going to be able to take off? If I can't take off in October, well, based on where I am right now, can I take off in November? So in other words, I need to show you how to create the metric first. And once you have the metric, you set the metric based on what your goal is. And I'm going to suggest some people, right? You may want to set your metrics so that month of December, you're done, right? Again, now, Sean D'Souza of Psychotactics sets his metric so that I think the last 3 months of every year, he takes off. All right. So yeah. Um, I don't think you need to the question is where can you where can you learn to set up an automation bot for free? I think that when you're setting up this metric, you go to ChatGPT, you go to the GPTs and you tell it what you want it to do and go through the wizard. I mean, that is the easiest way. Now you could take this article, you could put it in here, you know, based on but once you set your metric, you tell the GPT what your metric is, and you tell it what you want, what you're going to be asking it on an everyday basis. But yeah, but for the most part, you go to GPTs and you go through the wizard, like create a GPT, uh, go through the wizard and let it walk you through, let it ask you questions until you create the bot you want. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks very much for hanging out with me here. I appreciate you all very much, and have a great night and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.